Emerging Trends, Games and Jackets, episode number 50. I'm Bernie Goldbuck with Carla McKnight, and we're talking about sharing. Carla, tell us, if someone was trying to find you and they didn't know it was Carla with a C or Carla with a K, what handle do you use occasionally or most of the time when people are online? Where will we find you?
ArtsyRuthless for Instagram, Twitter, Discord, pretty much everything. And I'm found under that name every time I go to conventions and stuff. So it doesn't really matter if the name has a C or a K, as long as you can find ArtsyRuthless first. Okay,
so you've mentioned a couple things here that definitely piqued my interest. Sharing is the topic we want to talk about. It comes from Kevin Kelly. He wrote a book called The Inevitable. People were sharing before he made that word up. He didn't. He appropriated it and said, things are going to happen. Things are happening in the world around the concept of sharing. So I want to go backwards in time to 2015, because I know you cited like the rise and plateauing and maybe the fall of MySpace, the rise of Facebook. You've mentioned Twitter. You mentioned Discord. In 2015, before you started on the campus, the ClonmelDigital campus of the Limerick Institute of Technology, where were you sharing online?
In 2015, I actually had barely anything. So literally, I didn't have internet access until I was like 19 years old. So I think I was a lot slower than most people were at getting to share. So 2015, I had my personal Instagram account, and it was mostly pictures of my cosplays that I had and a couple of really poorly photographed marker pieces that I would have drawn. And I had a Facebook to keep in touch with my family. And every now and then I would upload some anime fan art up there as well. And so very minimal, not very helpful in the grand.
No, but 5 years on Instagram is that you're almost like a senior now, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a serious play. But you said most of the stuff was anime cosplay, and you say poorly photographed. What were you using for your technology?
My phone, but I did not have an iPhone at the time. I can't remember what it was, but it was not good.
All right. So did you snap shots of your own artwork?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's good. And cosplay stuff's powerful as well.
And they were a little better photos. So.
All right. Would you say that sharing has made you a better animator?
I definitely think so now. Like, I started my art-specific account maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I think 3. I think it said 2017 when I checked it yesterday. And just kind of getting the feedback from other artists around the place has really helped in a lot of things. And a lot of the other artists I know are always like, oh, hey, can I help you with this? Can I help you with that? And even now, a friend of mine is doing a comic book competition and he seems stressed. So I was like, hey, if you need help doing line art for this, I'll be available after this date and stuff. And so I think it's really just the collaborative effect of sharing that can help anybody improve as an artist and an animator.
Okay. You mentioned you help people out because you've heard people say, hey, can you have a look at this? Or I'm stuck on that. Where do you go to see that? Are you following communities online or hashtags online, or just people who happen to be in your flow?
It's kind of, for Twitter especially, I found a lot of like the Irish comic book artists and people that display at artist alleys like I do. We kind of all just find each other on Twitter eventually and message each other and help each other.
How's that work? Because that's really interesting. Is the algorithm doing that, bringing together, or are you?
It's a mixture of both. Sometimes it's a case of you've made friends with 1 or 2 of them and they're retweeting your stuff. And so then the other Irish artists see it and they're like, oh, hey, this person is also on my level. Let's follow them. Let's communicate, that sort of thing.
Are you depending upon the algo to do that then? Because when I go away and come back to Twitter, it tells me, hey, somebody has tweeted after a long time. They usually or somebody else liked this thing who liked that thing. And so I'm curious. I kind of dive into it. So I imagine that's what's happening to you.
The algorithm does it quite a bit, yeah. I think it's down to a mixture of that and other artists sharing work that they enjoy.
Yeah. So you would say that the sharing of work, perhaps aided by the algorithm, actually helps build a creative online community.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. 3 or 4 years ago, I think some people might have thought, I'm not sure of that, because they wouldn't have been as deep into it as you are now. And in fact, you might have said, oh, I don't know, it sounds like a come on. I'll be falling into a place where people are looking at weird things, or, I know back in the late 90s, I was working with a group of students in Trinity, so you can figure out what the internet was like back then, late 90s. And I was following people who would make probably version 1, version 0.5 of vlogs, video logs, just before YouTube. And I had to tell a couple of the people, I say, hey, you know what? I said, or you may not be aware of it, but there's this one subreddit, and it was called something like laundry, Matterhorn laundry. And I told this one girl, I said, your bras are in it. And she says, what do you mean? It says, must have some laundry stacked up in the corner. And when you're out of the room and you're letting the webcam run, you're in this collection called Matterhorn laundry. And of course she asked, well, how did you know that? I said, well, look, I look at weird, just, I'm trying to figure out, the word Ireland was tagged to it. So I was going down these rabbit holes. And then somebody else has said, when you're on camera, whenever you sneeze in the public webcams, it's in a fetish group. So like people are sharing your sneezes.
Oh.
And it's so weird. So the point is, back in 2015, you might have said, don't trust that because I don't know what it's about. And yet you see, you've leveraged a good thing with it, which is you're basically dependent upon other people to be curators for you and critics in a really, really good way. I think that's really powerful. How has all this sharing helped you during this lockdown phase?
I think a lot of the ways we've been, like, the internet is pretty much always the way I keep in touch with my artist friends, because in Clonmel, I only have my other classmates here. I don't really see anybody else. And so having artist group chats and artist video calls where we can show each other our work and stuff has kind of always been the way we've worked. Yeah. It's a little more sad knowing that we won't have any more conventions this year, but we've also, what's been set up lately is kind of digital conventions. So I'm part of one that they're calling SatCon, and it's run on Discord completely. And so you have your own Artist Alley channel where you can post your shop links and your commission prices and that sort of thing. And so even though we don't get to do the conventions that we normally get to do and we don't get to see each other, we still have this virtual space that we can share the work that we want to, and people can come and see that and see your cosplays and everything you would do in a normal convention space, but limited to your home.
Where is your shop link, the one that gets you the greatest traction?
Right now, it's just I take commissions for, I take digital commissions, and also I bought myself a badge maker back at Christmas. So now I make, I make badges personalized and ship those out as well. And that's gotten a lot of nice traction. So as soon as my dissertation is finished, I plan on actually opening my Etsy again, because I wanted to update everything that I've had, because I make work at such a fast rate. There's a lot of stuff that needs to go in there.
What format is the work? Is it just digital, or you
No, because I normally make work for conventions, I have my own kind of printer set up here at home. So I print regular prints. I make sparkly holographic prints that were very complicated to learn. I make badges, stickers, and I have some little kind of acrylic charms that I make also.
Wow.
So I just ship them out from here.
What kind of printer is that?
The printer is actually just a regular Epson XP 245, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of getting like really good quality paper, and then the holographic prints are made through, I ordered 100 meters of holographic film from China, and you place it on the print and send it through a laminator a few times, and it takes a long time. And then the badges I make here myself, and the acrylic charms I made with a company called Zap Creatives, and the quality of them is amazing. I love them so much. So,
do you know anybody that's making like dioramas? You know, their cutouts. You ever see them? Like they're like sets. You know, you can imagine an old-fashioned set from a stage production where you have background set and you have the foreground and you have something in the middle. So it's they're cutouts basically. Yeah. And you can do them old school with different thickness of paper with a sharp knife. And then there's this, what I call it, cry-cut. It's a machine that'll cut them based on.
Some of my friends have those. They use them for sticker.
Yeah. Are you going to go into the space of maybe having some branded or unique logo on a face mask? maybe consider doing something like that?
I thought about it, but I'm not sure. I feel like
Okay.
they sell a lot higher price than just regular face masks, and I feel like maybe you just need the normal ones
Yeah.
to be safe. So I'm not, it's something I'll think about, but I haven't.
Is Amy doing that? Do you know? Is she making?
I think she is. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she shared her Redbubble link recently, and she had
Yeah.
masks on there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing it with old socks. You can cut out socks and watch this Mexican lady. She did like a 25-second TikTok how to take an old sock and make a little face mask. It's not going to prevent stuff from getting in, but it prevents prevents you from getting out, which is kind of like.
I used to do a costume and makeup course before I came to LIT, and a lot of my older friends from there that are still in costume design and stuff, they've been making masks and shipping them out to hospitals and things lately.
It sounds like you're pretty active during all this stuff that's happened the last few weeks. Is there anything that isolation's created as a problem? Because that doesn't sound like there has been something that's constrained you significantly. But I am looking for people to say, you know what, the biggest hassle I've had is, like in your case, might be can't get paper or something like that. But what is a problem or two that you've had to work around?
I think mostly it's just motivation issues, because like I've always enjoyed working from home, so really my day-to-day life has not changed drastically. But my family lives up in Mayo, and so not getting to see my sister all the time and knowing that I probably won't get to see them until July is just every now and then it's just like I could be working, but I need a minute to feel sad. So if you can excuse me, that would be fine.
Oh, wow.
It's mostly just that. I think otherwise, you know, most of this is the same for me. So
what's your most creative time of day?
It varies. If I'm doing college work, it has to be between 1 and 6. And then if I'm drawing for myself, that could be any time that it hits me. It could be 4 in the morning. It could be first thing in the morning.
All right. The 4 in the morning thing intrigues me because that's like 80%, well, maybe, or at least 40% of the current fourth years are saying between 3 and 5, I'm totally on. Figuring, man, are you getting up then? Or you just woke up, second sleep time? That's really curious.
Sometimes I just stay awake that long, and then once you start drawing, you might as well keep finishing it, and then it's 5 in the morning. So
yeah, that's a good point. Okay, what kind of just based on the stuff you have shared, what kind of opportunities do you think lie directly in front of you right now?
Right now, I'm not sure about right now. Right now is such a weird time. It's hard to tell what opportunities are there for anybody at this stage. So, you know, right now I'm just kind of focusing on making my online store, getting products that I'm proud of here, and then just applying for every animation job I see in existence. So, but it's hard to know. It's just everybody's so unsure of what we're doing. I don't know. It's very difficult to know what's next after this.
You know, you guys are doing something natively and shareable. You probably know Amy's Redbubble identity. You may know somebody else's PayPal.me link. You know, like somebody else's on Patreon, or you know their handles on their Discord when they're going to be live on a certain subreddit. We need to somehow capture all that and distill it. I'm not sure how to do that. I do know how to do it. There's certain things I can do. So like what I'm trying to do based on the stuff that's happening now is I've spotted. We've done about probably 15 of these audio and video clips. 3 or 4 of them that immediately went to like 20 or 25 views or listens, and that's only looked at one system. Mm-hmm. And that means that they actually have 22 or 3 times that reach. And they got that within 1 week. So if like somebody put out their identity or put out a conversation, and 50 to 100 people within 1 day heard that. And in that conversation, they had some kind of casual reference, visual, and then auditory. It goes back to a collective of people. I think a lot of people would benefit because some people may not like your art, but they like Amy's stuff. They're not sure about Amy's, but Megan's is really kicks ass. Where they only, Duran's definitely into a zone that they need. And they don't know because it might be a tattoo artist that's looking for a certain thing, and they haven't even thought about certain line depth or color schemes that some of you guys have because it's your passion. So I just hope somehow we can bottle all that. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get, it's called a progressive web app. So it's like an old school website. You bring these different URLs together that have a little crawler that's happening behind the scenes. So the moment you put something up in your shop, this crawler would find it because it was told every 3 hours, look at your stuff, grab something that's new, and then cross-publish it. It would probably go into a bin that some editor would look at and say, yeah, that is Carla's stuff, that's good. Boom, publish, just let it go out, let it go out. But I actually wanted to try to get a hive that was happening. That starts with someone in first, second, or third year saying, here's my URL, I'm only on Etsy, here's the kind of stuff I do, here are the short descriptions of that, and that way, in case someone spoofed the account and someone hijacked the account and started putting up other weird stuff, the crawler wouldn't take it because it was only looking for your name, your handle, and we'd say, look, please use the following reference tag or descriptor. Otherwise, we're not going to crawl it. We're not going to pull it up. So I think we need something like that because like you guys will graduate, you'll leave. And then that is another problem because chances are the graduation you have won't be the same as anybody else's. Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen exactly, so anyway, but when you do leave, you have met some people over the last 3 or 4 years who have really good skills and they're nice folks. And it'd be handy to be able to hand them some easy mixer or some easy collaborative work. So I really hope that happens. We need to do that. We need to have that kind of connection.
I think there's been a lot of call recently for something that's like Deviant Art, except Deviant Art is filled with weirder stuff, and most artists aren't very happy with it. So, but there has been a call for something like that nobody seems to have answered very much. But just an artist-focused site or community is something I think people really want. But
it has to be sort of frictionless. Like, I mean, see, we have coders, the guys in the creative media program, and some of the software, some of the game artists. They could actually build these crawlers used to be built on campus 10 years ago. So electronic bots that go around saying, you tell me where to go, because they don't want to crawl the entire internet. It's too much work. So you give them the URL, be your shop 1, shop 2, shop 3, or whatever, your Twitter your Twitter and your Instagram. It goes there and it looks for certain signals. So like one crawler could go to your Insta and say, look, we only really want to get something that's got it's no more than 2 days old and has at least 10 views or 10 likes. Can't always figure that out just by looking at Instagram, but sometimes you can see it. Even on the front screen, you can see the number, lists a few people's names. So if somebody puts up an image and there's no engagement at all, chances are it's weak because, so you're looking for signals electronically that are being produced. And it may mean asking people, look, can you cross-post? So you build another site that allows you to, when you post the image, to actually quickly share to a secondary source. Now that goes into the super crawler and it publishes. So it can be a simple website. You scroll through it really fast and all of a sudden you see something and say, oh, that's cool. Who is that? You click into it, you connect with them and all. But the big goal is to have a vendor. It could be a car dealership or it could be a tourism agency that says, I kind of like her stuff. Can we get hats made with that on it? So now they're commissioning you to make a hat, for an event, and that'll be good. Can you give me some disadvantages of all this stuff though? Because you mentioned some, because you said you backed away from Deviant Art, Sam. Not sure. Some disadvantages of sharing, because it was in your PowerPoint.
I think the main disadvantage is to do with how often people can become dependent on the likes and engagement to kind of validate their art. I think the worst example of it, or the best example, depending on what way you put it, is my sister. She's 15 now, but when she was 13, she started her own art account on Instagram. Constantly just getting genuinely really angry that her stuff wouldn't get very many likes or just not less likes than this other thing she worked really hard on. Her stuff was getting less than mine, and my mom and I both tried to explain to her, like it's just a matter of getting people to see your work. You're still young, you're still learning how to do art. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't mean you can't draw. But it was really getting to her quite often. And she seems okay now. But I think if I had been trying to share my artwork when I was 13, I don't know if I'd still be doing it.
I have to move around because I lost my room.
Kicked out. I have everybody else kicked out of this sitting room for quite a while now, so they know better than to test me.
You had to go outside.
And now you
Yeah.
have the good lighting as well.
Yeah, I have there's a secondary source I can use, but like it has wind. And anyway, we'll just, it's hard to, the 8-year-old, I have no doors.
Oh,
The places where I would go, I just, even if I have doors there, he doesn't,
8-year-olds don't care about doors.
Yeah, wait a minute. Even if I have the doors, he doesn't. He just pops them straight open. Yeah. The stuff you were mentioning about, like, primarily your other people facing this issue of, like, I'm going to call it like toxic sharing. How, and you mentioned this as well, how can you put like concept like false news or poor engagement behind you? What tactics or suggestions are you using for that? Because it's really important to kind of share how you've done that.
Oh, it's kind of just take everything you see online with a pinch of salt is how I've been kind of doing everything, If you see something, make sure it's coming from multiple sources is a good start to it, I think.
Yeah.
It can be hard to figure out though. Like I can understand why people get caught by it. It's just, I don't know. Is the internet trustworthy at all? And to begin with is a whole seriously.
You've insulated yourself in a sense because you're using lists or communities based on faces, voices, and artwork you've seen and you can trust. That's important. So you've built this cocoon around you, a nice bubble, and that's valuable. And to me, that's a powerful piece of positivity to start with. How do you think sharing equates to potential work in the future? Because you're looking probably for an agency, a company, or a designer that you don't know yet. So in the future, do you see yourself having to change anything about the way you share or what you expect to do?
I think, like right now I get work through my Twitter and Instagram sharing. So an animation job I got a couple of years ago came because I was sharing my work regularly and Irish Comics News saw it and shared it on their website on what they call their art picks of the month. And then I got an email from this guy being like, hey, I want this animation done. I have this much of a budget. I really love your work. I really love what I've seen on Irish Comics News. Do you want to work together? And so that also made it a lot easier for me to get my internship for third year because he has a company called Deep Red Productions in Cork, and they're primarily a film company.
Yeah.
But he said that they wanted to make a comic book and would I be willing to do that for them for my internship and that sort of thing. And so I feel like, although I don't have all that big of a following right now, I do think that what I'm sharing on my social media is conducive to a future job. Like I think for more animation studios, I do think I need to make more child-friendly work. Because a lot of my stuff leans more towards kind of westernized anime things. But otherwise, like I'm pretty happy with how my work gets shared around and the few jobs that I've gotten from it and my commissions and things like that. So yeah.
Are you using any kind of a software as a service to produce the comic books?
I just use Procreate on my iPad for pretty much everything. So all of my art's done there, and I do my comic book pages there as well.
Yeah, I'm going to send you something by email. I may give you a passcode into it as well. I bought access to, I think it's called FlipSnack. It might be called FlipStack. And I know you can produce some pretty interesting effects with it. So like if you have the imagery done, it's a quick metaphor to produce something that's pretty complex. And the key thing is this: I've shown it to a few teachers and they get it. So like the point is, if you had a few pieces of comic book art, a few comic books that were in this zone that the owners of the software had as a demonstration, all of a sudden now you'd be getting hit requests to do more like this. I mean, it's a matter of, that's how you put yourself out there by saying, here's the character I'm using or the color scheme I have or the kind of work that I do. And that's why they want you. It's because they like your look. It's just so important. In the year 2050, what you're describing will probably continue. So what do you think 2050 means in the way of sharing? Everything you've said to date, I can see definitely rolling into the next decade, but is there some gigantic leap in sharing that you think will happen by the year 2050?
I think technology moves so fast that although 2050 isn't that far away in the grand scheme of things, like the technology that we could have by then is not something that I can imagine. But I think that's something that's like happening a lot now because of quarantine and stuff, is that a lot of the film festivals we would have had are online now. And I think that might continue in the future because it does give more access to people that wouldn't have been able to travel for these film festivals and things. And so I do think, I do think that's something that will continue in the future and might actually be more prevalent in the future because who knows where we'll be in 2050.
I'm surprised by how some really good films have gone directly to streaming, not to cinema. They couldn't go to cinema. And how the Academy Awards have said, we're going to accept nominations for streaming only content. And then you look at, like, we have a couple students that are working, graduates who are working in Limerick for, Apple TV productions. So there are so many big technical company plays. Who would have thought in the 90s that Amazon would be commissioning films?
Yeah.
So, where you share your stuff has to go to places where serendipitously could be the partner of a director sees it. Say, who did that? And now you're in to a place. So I'm just, to me, I think that what I've heard you say is that, if you keep getting feedback from artists you trust, if you can focus on getting your, by SatCon, making sure your shop links are perfect for an audience there, and that you can make sure your online store iterates to where it has, feeds other places or gets other props. Those kind of things put you, Carla McKnight, into a place where you're definitely killing this thing or crushing this thing called sharing. Would you add anything to that and say, now here's what else I'd like to do? Because that's the motivation I'm taking away from what you're telling me. Do you add anything to that?
Things I would like to do. I think overall I'd just like to be able to share more animated works and get them a little bit of a wider reach. I think, I think, I'm pretty happy with the work I've been sharing lately. I think another advantage of sharing is that, like, you can see all the progress you've made over the years because it's all just in a big list of it now. And so I'm pretty happy with how it's going and how this has all pushed me to improve. And so I think just, like, keep on working on the things that I enjoy and that will hopefully also make me employable and that sort of thing is just how I'm going to continue. And I think the improvement in both sharing your work and actually creating your work just comes from perseverance and just doing it for a long time.
So I can find you at ArtsyRuthless and go backwards in time and see how you've developed. I'll always consider examples of what you're sharing as being an example of what we're doing on the campus. It's like your creativity is meeting up with technology, and the sharing that results boosts your own personal brand and who we are as a ClonmelDigital campus. In the background, when this thing plays on Spotify or on iTunes, the backing track is shared by a blind musician called Andre Louis. You can catch up with weekly emerging trends, games, and tech podcasts and all good podcatchers. Just look for the ClonmelDigital hashtag and it'll land you in that thought space. I'm Bernie, topgold and good social networks. You've been listening to Carla. Say your handle again,
ArtsyRuthless.
Everywhere good shop art can be found. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.